The Board of Education meeting is now called to order. If you choose to do so, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
I would ask everyone to stand for the pledge. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have before you the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome Councilman Reeves. Thank you very much for being in the audience with us tonight.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I wanted to, about 5 minutes before I walked in the door tonight, Dr. Vic Wilson has asked that we remove his name from the candidates. So therefore, Mr. Kelly, there will be no reason for you to.
I got a long list of very good things to say.
I got the phone call 5 minutes. I shared it with Mr. Sweeney. I apologize, but I just found out. So Dr. Vic Wilson has withdrawn his name. So there are 3 candidates to consider tonight. To complete the next step in our selection process we outlined on Monday night, would each board member please identify the candidate whose name you picked and briefly discuss attributes that you thought stood out regarding this person based on the interview and your follow-up research about the candidate. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Madam President. One thing, I'll talk on about 3 topics that corresponded with interview versus references that I called. It was great references as well because some of them are current board members. So they talk very highly of Dr. Ledbetter. First one is leadership. He's a person that always tries to strive for a consensus, whether it's major or minor decisions. He's always going to play to that and genuinely care about them before he's making decisions on major and minor topics. He likes for everyone to feel included in the process. This is a team sport. That's what I was getting from them. However, when tough decisions occur, he's not afraid to make them. Second topic that was talked about is building relationships with local and state government. During a time when we're dealing with a lot of changes in legislation and money woes and things of that nature, it's always good to build those relationships and not be afraid of being an advocate for education, even if it steps on folks' toes at times. But that was a topic of discussion. And also on a local note, being that we're doing unitary status is also important. Third topic, that he has a lot of that experience dealing with that unitary status that we'll be going through from this point to whatever point it ends. All in all, they talk about a very remarkable guy, family-oriented, care about his kids, but from the standpoint, care about other folks' kids in the same manner. The football coach they talked about understands that extracurricular activities, both arts and academics, are equally important when it comes to the overall education of that student. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Presley?
Yes, ma'am. I had Dr. Marzak, and the main thing that ran through the references and the people that I contacted were, it was very evident from the moment he walked into this room. He is a very enthusiastic, very excitable kind of guy. He is very passionate about what he does. As Brian will attest, he's very technically savvy. I think he actually reached out via Twitter as soon as it was announced he was one of the finalists. So that was something that was very exciting, the fact that where we are in our technical devices and whatnot, that he is very much savvy in those. He is a very smart man. He has written numerous periodicals. He wears a lot of different hats in his school system. But the number one thing that ran through was the fact that he was very enthusiastic and that he was a very outside of the box thinker.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
Hi, Dr. Kathy Murphy. I take a little bit different approach. You know, when you're given references to call, it's probably a pretty good chance you're going to hear some good things. So what I set out to do was affirm what we read, what we saw, and what we heard the other night, of course. And also, I wanted to represent some of the stakeholder comments about her and more like concerns that they might have not knowing her. So I picked out 3 things that I expressed to each one of the references that I called. Putting it in context, the references are lifelong educators. One works for the Department of Education right now, is a director, and knew her as a principal when this person was superintendent of Troy's school system. The next person I called was a lifelong educator, been superintendent of 2 different county school systems, subsequently is retired, living in Hattiesburg, working to start a doctoral program in William Carey College in Hattiesburg. The third person I contacted happened to have been a deputy superintendent for the state of Alabama, the dean of education at Stanford University, and as a lifelong educator has done most everything there is to be done in education and knows every superintendent during her tenure in some of these jobs. So the credibility of this group of people that I contacted was just phenomenal in terms of their experiences and their abilities. So I posed 3 things for them, trying to represent some stakeholder concerns that we had gotten. One of them was, I was concerned because she did not come to us with a vision for the future of Hoover City Schools. Immediately, I got the response, she's not going to come to you with a vision that she's already made her mind up on. She's going to listen, she's going to talk to people, she's going to understand what's going on, and take those ideas, think those good things and pool them together with the consensus of everyone else, and then craft a vision with everybody's input and move forward, which I thought was a phenomenal compliment. Then there was a concern about micromanagement. Clearly Dr. Murphy has high energy, no question about it, and there's probably a sense from some people that she's going to be a micromanager because where she is in a small district, she has to wear a lot of hats. We've got a lot of people wearing hats here that she won't have to wear. And so I said, what about her and the concern about micromanagement? Again, a consensus return comment. No, she is not a micromanager. She is very much site-based managed. Now, if you need micromanaging, she'll probably help you in that regard. She'll ask the hard questions. She'll deal with you straight up. You'll know exactly where you stand. She'll help you be the best you can be. But as far as being a consistent micromanager, that's not her at all. Leadership qualities. That's always one of the biggest things that we've all been talking about with all these candidates. Hands down across all 3 responses, what we saw, what we heard, and what we read about her is the real thing. She came in here with intent to be herself, and she was. And her intention is not only to grow in the job profession on her own, but I was told by these 3 people she is a consensus builder, and she will bring people together, and she'll take ideas and she'll mold them together and get the entire district behind one path that's good for all students, because she is very student focused. So when I backed away from all of this, after hearing what I was very impressed the other night, these affirmations from these lifelong educators was a very, very positive thing, and if nothing else, if she was here tonight, I'd tell her she should be proud.
Madam President, would it be proper for me to speak on Dr. Wilson even though he went through? I'm going to do it, it's okay. I've known Vic Wilson for many years because of my side of officiating, officiated him as a coach and also officiated alongside him in basketball years ago. I did call the references that Dr. Wilson put on his resume, and my wife will tell you, probably made notes on a page and a half, and these are educators, assistant deans, an outstanding conversation. Even though they were references he gave for us to call, it went beyond, oh yes, I know Vic, he's a great guy, he's a great, it'd be good for you. And I mean, I've got a page here plus other notes that I was looking forward to presenting there. I mean, Vic is a musician, he's an educator, and he's been a coach, and I think he's a youth coach now. So in our profile, I don't know how much more qualified he could have been. I'm not going to take up the board and the public's time, stakeholders, because I understand he withdrew, but I am disappointed that he did, and I wish him good luck.
Thank you.
Dr. Ms. Frazier, in addition to the thorough venting of qualifications and background that the board members have done at your direction, one of the important aspects of our contract and agreement with AASB was for them to check the background of all of the candidates, which they did as they were sorting through to give us the finalists. And once the finalists were presented, they went back and rechecked all aspects of the candidates' past, their character, their record, and they have given us resounding reasons to think that all of the candidates that were being considered were people that had impeccable credentials and character and history.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. First off, I'd like to say thanks to each of you. The time that you have spent vetting these candidates, I just want you to know how much it means to me as board president, and I know it means a lot to the people in this audience that you took the time and you were very, very thorough. One thing that I chose to do, I guess for me personally, to help me make a decision as far as a candidate, I contacted various stakeholders. I've been on the phone for the last 3 days. I've talked to a little over 30 people, from city leaders to Dana, our AA rep, to principals, teachers, you name it. Contacted Bill Cleveland in Homewood, talked to Jamie Blair, previous superintendent in Vestavia. I wish I brought my list with me, but I was expecting to make phone calls, and basically the question that I asked of the 4 candidates, do you feel like that there's someone that could lead Hoover City Schools? That's the way I opened my question. And I expected to get a top answer or a top 2 answer, but everyone that I talked to took up a lot of time to truly express their desire for this board to make the best decision that they possibly could. And even though a lot of them indicated a 1 or 2 candidate, most every single person that I talked to said, regardless of the decision that the board makes, we know how difficult this decision is going to be. As a matter of fact, Councilman Reeves, don't take this personally, but John Latta called me and he said, I'm not sure that there will be a decision on the council that I'll have to make that will be as difficult as the 5 board members will have to make regarding this candidate. So anyway, I just, everyone said regardless of the decision, they will support the superintendent that we choose. And I can honestly tell you, from everybody that I talked to, everyone was all over the board, and everyone had very, very valid points for the candidate that they wanted. So at this time, Mr. Sweeney, would it be appropriate for me to ask if there is a candidate that the board is willing to move forward with as a, for Hoover City Schools.
That would be appropriate, and I think there are a lot of people here that are hoping that you'll ask that question.
Okay. Guess I'll take a deep breath. At this time, is there anyone that would like to make a motion? I wrote notes, I'm sorry. At this time, is there anyone who would like to make a motion recommending one of our candidates for the position of superintendent for Hoover City Schools?
Madam President, I move that the board offer the position of superintendent of Hoover City Schools to Dr. Kathy Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of offering the position of superintendent for Hoover City Schools to Dr. Kathy Murphy, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. At this time, is there any further discussion by the board?
Ms. Frazier, I think it would, not to speak on behalf of the board, but for the candidates that came down and interviewed, all of us at one time in our life, maybe more than one, have had the opportunity to interview for a job. I doubt very many of us that have the opportunity to interview for a job with an audience behind you that's streamed live on television, that's posted on YouTube for people to see for days and weeks to come. So to Dr. Ledbetter, to Dr. Marzak, to Dr. Wilson, and to Dr. Murphy, all, thank you to them. They have spent their entire life educating children, and that's what we're all about here. And I commend them for the courage it took to come and interview here. I commend them for their past record as teachers and administrators, and I wish them all the best in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Presley. Anyone else? At this time, obviously, I'd like to make a phone call to Dr. Murphy. Before I do, we probably should discuss the salary to be included with the job offer. Are there any thoughts on salary? I know that in the posting, in our original meeting that we had with ASB, we had $185,000 as a base salary, with no cap to be negotiated, obviously, depending on the candidate that we chose. As a starting place, a starting comment, do I have any thoughts on salary from anyone on the board, please?
About a month ago, we all know that I did kind of an analysis on Andy Craig's contract to understand, for all of us to understand not only the base salary, but all the other components that have to do with benefits and vacation and anything. And in preparation for some decision we would obviously have to make when we decided who we wanted to offer the job to. It was posted with some flexibility by ASB at 185. Andy was making, I think, somewhere around 187 at the time. Had not had a board-approved raise since he had been here. That's probably been 7 years. And certainly there's some back-end things on the negotiation of the contract relative to benefits that has some bearing on the overall cost to us. But I think there's some great opportunity here to send a strong message to her that we really want her. We're competing straight up against the city of Dothan right now. The city of Dothan wants her as well. So we've got that little situation hovering in the background. The other thing is, I do think that there's enough flexibility in contract terms and conditions that we can meet her needs as well as our needs going forward. So it's kind of like, where do we want to start? What do we want to show her? And with the backdrop of the city of Dothan.
Madam President, my notes, of course, said she or he as I went down, so I'm trying to, obviously I'm very proud that Dr. Murphy will be offered this job. We're a very large and very, very important district. Our salary discussions, of course, were open to the public and posted at 185 with possible other variables. I'd like to make a motion that we offer Dr. Murphy $195,000, and with the contract negotiations to follow if she accepts.
Okay, Mr. Kelly has a motion on the table for $195,000 for Dr. Kathy Murphy. Any further discussion on the salary?
I think it's well in range with a couple of the other Oakland Mountain school districts that have less than 5,000 kids. So I don't, while it sounds to some as being maybe, I don't think it's high because again, Andy Craig has not had an increase for the entire duration. We just happen to have 14,000 kids, 16, 17 faculty. So.
Okay, any further discussion on the salary for Dr. Murphy? If not, there's a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of offering a base salary of $195,000 to Dr. Murphy, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. At this time, if we can recess for just a few minutes, I'd like to make a call to Dr. Murphy and offer her the job for the base salary of $195,000.
And you'll come right back and announce whether we've got a deal?
Yes, sir. I'll just have my phones charged.
Do us proud.
I'll beg. Dr. Murphy has accepted the position as superintendent of Hoover City Schools. She is very excited about serving the children of this district. I told her that I would contact her sometime next week. Obviously, Mr. Sweeney and I, along with input from the board, will negotiate the details of her contract. So to all of you, a lot of you who have been here for every single interview, this board is very excited, and I think Dr. Murphy is extremely excited that it was a unanimous vote, and she's looking forward to coming to Hoover.
Dr. Frazier, you've been...
Dr. Frazier?
You got promoted.
President Frazier,
Congratulations.
you've been so generous in pointing out how much time your colleagues have spent. You have been wonderful. You've followed every detail of every aspect of it. So I'd like for all of us here to join ranks in thanking you and every member of this board. I remember years ago, when Jimmy Permit retired from his distinguished law firm, they asked him what was the most important accomplishment that he'd ever done, and he said to appoint the superintendent of the Mountain Brook Board of Education, that had more lasting consequence than anything else. And I think all of you've approached this responsibility with the same thing in mind, that this will be a legacy that you'll be proud of, that will last forever, and people will remember this critical juncture in the history of the Hoover school system. So if I could get everybody here to join me in thanking our board.
If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Sure.